What's going on, everybody? I'm Lyle Alenstein with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined by Joel Haas of StateCollege.com. And for the first time since September 13th against Villanova, the Penn State Nittany Lions football team has won a football game. We're here at East Lansing at Spartan Stadium for a 28-10 finish. And Penn State, they've found some good momentum going over these last couple of games. Obviously, tough stretch with Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana. But they've looked like a football team as of late. And there was some good juice going into this one. And that's exactly what it looked like. It did not look like a strong start for the Nittany Lions, so all that momentum looked like it was going away as Michigan State scored on their first offensive possession. But then after that, as you guys, pretty windy here too. But after that, it was all Penn State. Obviously, Joel, this is a big win for this program. Just given the circumstances, how the season has gone, the spiraling, the downhill sledding. But I'm just going to open it up to you. A lot to talk about, a lot to digest. Where do you want to go with?
Yeah, I think you've got to start with the run game. Just the way that Penn State was able to win this game on its own terms. Terry Smith kind of talked about that a little bit after the game. That's kind of how they wanted this game to end, whether, win or lose. They wanted to go down, playing what they call Penn State football. Tough defense, good run game. Obviously, offensive line got it done up front and allowed Kaytron Allen to run for a career high, around 180 rushing yards today on 25 carries. He also had 2 receptions for 10 yards, which makes up a quarter of the passing game, believe it or not, for Penn State today. So he kind of got it done in 2 different ways there, but yeah, I think Kaytron, obviously we've seen throughout the year that he's clearly been, Penn State's best offensive player, maybe the best player on the team, you could argue, and is obviously setting himself up nicely for when the NFL draft comes around, in the spring. But I think that's the story of the game for Penn State. I don't know if they win this game without Kaytron. So I think that's where it kind of starts and ends.
Yeah, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns in a season that's had so much go wrong for Penn State. Kaytron Allen has been a right. This guy has left it all out on the field. He's been one of the best players, if not the best player, and he's just someone that, is spoken very highly of this program. Football means a lot to him. Penn State means a lot to him. And he's worked hard. And for a game that Penn State finally gets in the win column, I feel like it was only right for him to get going. Otherwise, passing attack wasn't really there, but it didn't need to be because the running game was so efficient. Obviously, this offensive line had a hell of a game. Post-game media, that starting offensive line from left to right of, Drew Shelton, Vega Ioane, Nick Dawkins, Anthony Donko, Nolan Rucci. All 5 of them came out, sat right next to each other in the media chairs, and just talked to everybody, chopped it up, just said, we all had a great day. It was about time we go do this. We wanted to do it together, and rightfully so. Kaytron spoke very highly of them. Ethan Grunkemeyer spoke very highly of them, what they did today. And it was just that kind of game, ground and pound. Going into the season, this offensive line was a group that was, in contention for that Joe Moore Award, given the best offensive line in college football. Obviously, it has not turned out that way. They've had their struggles, their lapses, but today they put it all together and kind of dominated in the trenches. So that was the run game. Passing game, as we just touched on, Ethan Grunkemeyer did okay. Didn't need to do a whole lot, but he had that one big passing play to Devontae Ross, 75-yard touchdown, wide open. Beautiful read off of play action. That's the kind of throw we talk about, the arm strength that Ethan Grunkemeyer had coming out of high school, highly touted. Just the way he spun the ball. That has been the buzz about him. You saw it on that throw. Obviously, it was windy here. So a couple of underthrown balls on both sides today. But other than that, he did what he needed to do. He was happy. When that offensive line came in, when Grunkemeyer was speaking to the press conference, they were hyping him up, right, as he should. Grunkemeyer stayed and watched them talk with a smile on his face. So that was the offense. Defense, 2 names that kind of stuck out to me right away in this one, Joel, were Deni Dennis Sutton and Darius Dixon.
Yeah. A lot of alliteration there.
Oh, good. Both D's as well.
Yeah. They both had great games. And just to your point, Lyle talked about it a little bit, but all 5 offensive linemen came out together for post-game media, which we don't ever see. Darius Dixon came out for post-game media, which we also don't ever see because he's a true freshman. James Franklin had a policy where we didn't talk to true freshmen throughout the season. Then we got them at the very end of the year in the spring. But I guess Terry Smith obviously doesn't follow that same policy.
His guy too.
So yeah, that's also a guy that comes from his cornerback room, a guy that he recruited heavily. We heard a lot of buzz about Darius Dixon. I remember going all the way back to last spring. I think I asked A.J. Harris if there was a young guy who impressed him. He immediately brought up Darius Dixon. And it's kind of ironic that, A.J. Harris was the guy today who was questionable to play on the pregame availability report. We saw him come out in uniform, going through warm-ups, sort of. And then I don't believe he took a single snap today. And Darius was the benefactor. He was the guy who, got those snaps in A.J.'s place. So, there's kind of some levels to that, but I thought he played well. I think he finished with 5 tackles, half a tackle for loss. Obviously had a clutch fumble recovery that really helped Penn State kind of pull away in this one. So really impressive stuff, and I actually it didn't start that way because Michigan State's first play from scrimmage on offense, 75-yard touchdown, or I don't think it was 57? 57-yard touchdown run for Michigan State on their first play. And it was a wide open gap that I actually thought Dixon should have filled. And Dom DeLuca also missed a tackle, so I think some of the blame goes to DeLuca, which is nothing new. But after that, I thought Darius should have been, the next guy in there. He looked out of position, which actually allowed the Spartans to jump out to an early 7-0 lead. So I think it was kind of a full circle moment for him. That after that play, he was pretty much lights out. I believe he had pass breakup as well that I didn't even mention. So great day from a true freshman quarterback, and definitely a guy that Penn State, you're going to want to retain him. And I think, his love for Terry Smith was pretty evident, having talked to him after the game. So I think that's one thing you have to consider if you're Penn State. Whoever the next head coach is, you want to try and find a way to keep Terry Smith on staff, whatever role that may be, whether it's, quarterbacks coach, some kind of off-field analyst, or even in a general manager role. Whatever it may be, I think, I think he has close relationships, not just with Darius, but with a lot of guys on that defense and on the team as a whole. He told us, I think it was his introductory press conference, he told us like 75% of the roster he had personally recruited at some point, which I thought was an interesting note because I think James Franklin obviously gets a lot of the credit for the recruits that Penn State gets. I think Terry probably almost was like a backhanded kind of nod there, saying that maybe he deserves some more credit for some of the recruiting success that Penn State has had, the last 12 years. And then Deny, monster game. I think he had a little bit of a slow start to the season, but these last 2 weeks has really, turned it into high gear. And that's one of those guys where, he enters the season as a projected first-round pick potentially, and has all this hype surrounding him. Could he be the next Abdul Carter? Could he be the next star edge rusher for Penn State? He's got all the measurables, all the intangibles. The scouts are already impressed with him. He could have gotten drafted last year, chose to come back. He's one of those guys that you kind of think about, when Penn State's season goes off the rails, does he consider opting out to save his draft stock? Because he was one of the few players whose stock hadn't completely plummeted, once they had taken those first few losses. But, to his credit, stayed in there, has been competing, has played with high energy. We see it in the celebrations and things like that he's doing directed at student sections, things like that. And obviously he's setting the tone. Darius talked about him and said, Penn State wouldn't be where it is. I think the quote was, "Thank God for Deny Dennis Sutton," because he just sets the tone for the defense. So yeah, those two guys definitely stuck out to me as well.
Yeah, a couple more quick hitters. Just because I'm a big special teams guy, I want to shout out Gabe Wosu. He was flipping the field all day today. Just a great season for him. Special teams have been a difference maker in this one, but with him and Ryan Barker. And I thought, today exemplified just that in the game in the third quarter. That had no scores and it was all punts. I do also want to highlight Andy Kotelnicki and Jim Knowles' play calling today. Those are guys who both received a lot of scrutiny and criticism this year. I thought they dialed up a great game plan on both sides of the ball. I walked by Andy Kotelnicki in the box today, and he was head down, focused at the task at hand. Right after we crossed paths going to the bathroom. So just want to highlight that. But Land Grant Trophy coming back to State College for the first time since this game has had played. 2 years since this has been played after being an annual thing. Penn State's got 2 games left on the year. Nebraska at home, on the road against Rutgers. Bowl eligibility is at the stake. Just what's the outlook for these next 2 weeks?
Yeah, at one point we were kind of questioning, would these guys even play in a bowl game? If they reach 6 wins, would they have enough of a team to even play? Would everyone want to opt out and things like that? But it seems pretty clear. Terry Smith has referenced it a couple times now that, backs against the wall now, and they're I think he said they're playing for their lives today in terms of making a bowl game. So it still seems very clear that it's something that the team wants to do. I think, just for considering everything that the team has gone through this year, the preseason expectations and the way that everything has kind of collapsed in on them, I think it's maybe a little bit of a nice silver lining for them to be able to have that opportunity to go to a bowl game, one last game together, send the seniors off. Obviously they wanted to come back and win a national championship, but you can send them off with a land grant trophy and a bowl trophy instead, potentially. So I do think that's something the team thinks about and something the team wants to do, is make a bowl game and is win that bowl game. I'm not saying there wouldn't be opt-outs, because there probably would be at least a few, maybe on both sides of the ball even. But I think it is something they think about, and I think Nebraska is still going to be tougher than most people realize. I know Dylan Raiola got hurt and he's out for the year. I got to watch a little bit of their game, I think it was last week, and I thought their backup quarterback played pretty well, so I think it'll be a bigger challenge than maybe some people are anticipating. I'm not sure who's even going to be favored there against the spread, but Penn State does get that one at home, which could be a little bit of an advantage, so we'll see what happens there, but I think Penn State will be motivated for that game and the Rutgers game as well.
Yeah, for sure. Got to give credit where credit is due. Terry Smith walked into a tough position, and he's had guys believe in him, and he believes in this program. We'll see where he stands in terms of if he's even here by the time the season comes to a close and the new staff is in place. But you got to shout him out. This win means something to him. A guy that's played for Penn State. He's been here for 12 years. He's had his kids go here, had his dad go here. So just big moment for him. That Gatorade shower is well deserved. But you mentioned Nebraska next week. Isaiah and I will be back there post game to discuss our thoughts with Dylan Raiola, Matt Rule, a little homecoming State College native, former Penn State linebacker, and former guy that was involved with this potential next head coach. But he will be inked up with Nebraska for the foreseeable future with a contract extension. So that's all we're going to have for today. But we will be back in Beaver Stadium next week for Nebraska, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.